SDK. Today I'm going to show you how to set up a 2013 SDK single-player mod. And before we do anything, I have to say I only recommend that you use Source if you're making something for a game that's already on Source, like Half-Life 2 or TF2, Portal, any of those. If you're not making something for one of those games, then just look into any other engine, because Source will put you at a significant disadvantage because you're not actually getting the full engine. With the official SDK that Valve releases, you only actually get a small cut of the full engine, and it's just like really weird what they include and what they don't. And if there's some bug with part of the code that they don't include, then you just have to hope that you can work around whatever that bug is. Otherwise, you're just out of luck. And usually when I tell people about this, they usually start telling me some dumb excuse about how, Source is, the graphics are just so perfect, and I can only use Hammer because I'm too dumb to learn anything else, and blah, blah, blah. Don't tell yourself all that junk. Don't. Get over it. There is also the unofficial leaks that you can use to make mods, but those come with other downsides, and I'm not going to cover those in this video. And you obviously read the title, but this will be a tutorial for the single-player SDK, which, as far as I'm aware, has not received any of the recent updates. So to access that, first you have to go to this, and then go down to here and the branches button, and go to single player. This, the master branch, this is the multiplayer SDK, which is the new one that has been updated recently. And the reason I'm not going to show you how to do it with multiplayer is because you can guess from the name, it's set up for multiplayer. It's set up for Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, not base Half-Life 2. And at the moment, it doesn't really work well if you want to use it for single-player purposes. Like there's crashes and stuff, and just weird inconsistencies that exist between Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, and you have to go and fix those, and it's just bleh. Maybe that will change in the future. I don't know. Nobody really knows right now what will happen. Maybe in 6 months it'll be perfectly fine. I don't know. But for the time being, it's still best to make a single-player mod on the single-player SDK, and I'm making this video because I don't like any of the other tutorials that exist already. So there's a few things that you have to download before you can start making your mod. First one is the game code itself, and just for anyone who's not entirely sure what this is basically a snapshot of Half-Life 2 as it was at some point back in 2013. And you will make a copy of this that you will make the changes that you want, and then you'll compile it and be able to send it to other people. But we'll talk more about that later. So all you have to do here is go to this code button and then download zip. And now there's another part of it that you have to install from Steam. So go to your Steam library and make sure the tools checkbox is checked. And then you want to find Source SDK based 2013 single player. And once you have that downloaded, go to properties, betas, and set it to upcoming. If you don't do this, then you'll just crash on startup because Valve is very smart. Inside this base thing is all of the code that you cannot change, and you need it to actually open your mod, and so will anyone else that wants to play the mod. And the final thing that you need to install is Visual Studio 2013, and this will be what you use to change the code. However, you don't actually need to use 2013, you just have to download it, and if you want, you could use Visual Studio 2022 instead, which is generally a lot nicer all around to use. Microsoft is like making it difficult to find where to download Visual Studio 2013 because it's old and they hate old things, I guess. But it is available on Internet Archive to download. It's completely free. This part of the video is just about version control, and there's nothing about version control that's unique in Source. This is just here so that new devs are starting off on the right foot. If you already know all about version control, then you can just skip this part. So version control is, well, it's multiple things, really. One thing that version control can do for you is if there are multiple people working on your project, you can better manage making sure that everybody has the most up-to-date version of the project and everyone's always on the same page and all that. And if there are multiple people working on something at once, you can more easily resolve the conflicts that arise between the different versions of those files and stuff that people are making. But even if you're not working with anybody else on your project, version control is still good because if you use it correctly, you can keep records of when and why you made changes to your project, which can be very helpful. And there are a lot of different version control platforms that you can use online, but I prefer GitHub. And to use GitHub, you want to find GitHub Desktop, which you can download from their website. Just hit download now, and it should be a pretty simple installation. And now with all of that downloaded, let's go and unzip the code from GitHub. I recommend you use 7-zip because now let's go and move this folder somewhere a little nicer. Usually people keep their programming projects in some like specific folder for those projects to keep things organized. And now let's rename this to whatever, my mod. Okay, and now that you've done all of that and you've set up your GitHub account and GitHub Desktop, now it's time to tell GitHub Desktop about your project. So we go new repository, my mod, which is the name of the folder from before. Put a description if you want. Local path should be the path that you put that folder in. There's already a README, so leave that unchecked. There's already a gitignore, so leave it at none. And there's already a license, so leave that at none. And that may take a very long time. But anyway, now that that's done, publish. And decide what you're going to call it on GitHub. Just keep the same things, why not? And if you want your mod source code to be public, then uncheck this. Otherwise, keep it private. And that will also take a long time because it's going through so many files, but after the first commit, it's very fast. And now that is that mod is actually on my GitHub. We can see it here. Wow. And if you want, you can invite other people to see this project as well so that they can also work on it at the same time. Now go to the src folder, which is short for source code, and you can either use createallprojects.bat or creategameprojects.bat. Creategameprojects.bat will make a solution file that you can open in Visual Studio, and it will have projects for the essentials, basically. Like it'll be base Half-Life 2 and episodic, and it'll also include 2 other things, but you don't really mess with those other 2 very much. And the other one, createallprojects.bat, this creates a different solution file, which will include several other things. caption compiler, fgdlib, glview, a lot of things that most of the time you're not going to care about, but maybe if you want them, then there they are. The ones Phoneme Extractor and QC eyes have some issues, but you don't have to compile those unless you have some specific reason to change their code. If you don't want to change them at all, then you can just use the existing versions of them. I will link an older tutorial that goes over how to fix those, but most people will be just fine using only games.sln. Okay, so you'll see here we have client and server projects, and they both have an HL2 version and an episodic version. HL2 just refers to the base game Half-Life 2, and episodic refers to episode 1 and 2. Both episodes run on the same binaries, and the differences you see between them, like the flashlight and stuff, is all controlled through CFG files and whatnot. Most people probably only want to compile the episodic projects because the episodic projects just have like a tiny bit more stuff in them, a few more features here and there. And for most people, the HL2 projects are just a waste of time. No need to compile those at all. So now I will show you how to get rid of these HL2 projects properly. However, if you're making a mod that's kind of like something else on top of the base game, like in the way that Half-Life 2 Chaos is, then just skip to the next section of the video because this does not apply to you, and you should not try to use the episodic binaries with the base Half-Life 2 maps because there will be a lot of weird issues that you just don't want to deal with. So let's go to VPC scripts and default.vgc and just remove everything about HL2 in here. Yeah, and also in projects.vgc. And now we run the bat file again. And Visual Studio will say that there was something weird going on. So just close it and open it again. There we go. And you can also go ahead and go to game and remove mod underscore HL2. Just delete that entire thing because you don't need it. If you have citizens in your mod, then keep these, and if you're not going to have citizens in your mod, then just delete them, I guess. And then mod episodic, this will be the folder that you give to other people to play the mod. I'll talk more about that later, but for now, let's just focus on the name of it. How do we change that name? Well, we don't just rename the folder. Well, I mean, that is one thing we do. Just call it my mod or whatever you want. But Visual Studio will still be trying to put the compiled binary files in a folder named mod underscore episodic. So we have to go and tell it about our new folder name. So, and to do that, client. Oh yeah, there's a bit more clutter that we can remove if you're only wanting episodic. But anyway, go to the VPC file and change this to my mod. And go do the same thing in the server file folder. my mod. And now run the bat file again. You've done a great job tolerating me, and we're almost at the fun part, okay? But first, before we do anything else, I thought it would be good to look at GitHub Desktop again and see what it's doing and what we should do. So as you can see here, GitHub Desktop has noticed that we've removed, well, not really removed, but we've changed the name of that folder, mod episodic. In GitHub Desktop, this counts as removing a file, but don't worry, all we've done is change the name of the folder. You'll see. And we've removed the folder mod underscore hl2, so that's normal. And here's the new stuff, quote unquote new, but all we did is just change the name of that folder. And here's some other stuff. This is some junk that Visual Studio will create in order to make itself run faster or whatever. I don't really know exactly. It's just stuff that it creates. But we don't want to commit these things because it's clutter. So let's go and say ignore folder .vs. So this means that anything that's in the folder .vs is just not going to be put into our changes that we make to the mod. And you'll notice that this changes a file called .gitignore. And we'll also do the same with all of this junk. Go here, ignore all filters files, and vpc underscore crc. Do not add the vpc files to the gitignore because those we do want to have our changes recorded. Ignore Sentinel files and PDB. VGC is fine. Yeah, I think you can just do ignore everything in lib. Ignoring that folder doesn't make these changes go away, but none of the future changes will matter. You can just discard these. And now we'll write a bit about what we've changed so far. Let's see. Setup stuff. I guess I'll make that the title. And then changed mod episodic folder name, I guess, and removed mod hl2 folder, and we changed the, we removed the hl2 project as well. That's all we did. And you'll notice that this time GitHub Desktop will complete its work much faster because you're not uploading a new version of the mod, you're just uploading the changes that you made to the mod. Okay, and now we can compile the code, which will translate the code into a form that the computer can read so that it can actually run the mod. So go to build and build solution. Also up here you have rebuild solution and clean solution. Build solution will compile all of the files that you've recently changed, which in our case is everything, since we've not compiled anything previously. And rebuild solution will clear out all of the compiled forms of the files and recompile everything. Sometimes you will want this because sometimes there will be spirits that possess your computer and just weird things will happen. And then clean solution just clears out everything on its own and doesn't recompile anything. Now, go to your client project, properties, debugging, and go to Singleplayer, go to your Steam folder, and Source SDK base 2013 Singleplayer, and click on that, properties, and copy this path into here, and add on hl2.exe. And now in the command arguments, put allow debug. Allow debug will mean that you are able to open the program while running the Visual Studio debugger, which I'll explain more in a different video, but for now just trust me, put that there. Otherwise it's not going to work, and Novid will skip the intro video. And now add -game so that we know what mod to load. Oh, and I should say, this has to be Source SDK base 2013 Singleplayer's hl2.exe. It cannot be the hl2.exe from Half-Life 2. If you use Half-Life 2's exe, then there will be problems that you just don't want to deal with. So don't do that. Okay. And go to your MyMod folder and find the gameinfo.txt and copy that and put that right there. Okay. And now we can hit local Windows debugger to run the mod. Ooh. And it opens in this ugly little window. Just change the settings and be done with that. I recommend that you use windowed mode, even if you usually use full screen, because if you have a crash while you're in full screen, then you'll basically have no way to get out of the crash, and you'll just be stuck there, and it's really annoying. So just and after you've changed the settings, then quit the game so that they're saved immediately. Have any maps that we can load?
You idiot. That's Gordon Freeman. The Vortigaunt said he was on the way. Dr. Freeman, Alex Vance is over here. The board's trying to patent.
So the problem with the textures there was just because of how we were loading the map, and I won't bother to bore you with the explanation of what's going on there right now, because it only impacts mods that are trying to load Valve maps. So I'll go over that in a separate video if you want to make a mod that's like Half-Life 2 base game kind of add-on thing. But an easy way to fix that, not that you should do this in your mod, I cannot recommend that you do this, but anyway, bloop. Oh, and this is GCFscape, which you can download for free. And the second cause of those issues, resource, and change this to MyMod. Quit, and let's try it again. Okay, I think I know what that is. So apparently I deleted skill.cfg when we deleted the mod hl2 folder. So just copy it from this on GitHub and just skill.cfg, and there you go. Now let's try it again, and hopefully that guy will not die randomly. I don't know what that is about. I'm not going to.
You idiot. That's Gordon Freeman.
Okay, yay! I don't know what that assert is about, and I'm not going to investigate it, at least right now. Maybe that's something to look into, but I don't know. Probably not. So now let's try making a simple change to the code just to prove that everything's working. And I think what I want to do is change the RPG speed. The speed that the RPG will launch things at. So I'll go to weapon rpg.cpp, and it's already right there. So this right here means that the RPG's speed will be 1500 units per second, and I'm going to change that to 150. Save that and build. Okay. Good. Now I will show you how to commit our RPG changes. But first, we've got a bunch of other junk that we have to get out of here. Server blacklist.txt that's junk. This is junk. Game state, junk. I do not want to upload that. No, thank you. A node file. Yeah, I'm gonna put that. Ignore that. Ignore that. That is our new txt folder that we did before. Anything in the save folder is going to be just clutter. This is junk. This is junk. And this is junk. 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 That's good. See? This records our change to the RPG speed. Junk. 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 Okay. RPG speed change, I guess we'll call that. And bug fixes. Okay. And then we do this. And yeah, now our changes are live on GitHub. Wow. And now, after you've made your mod, here is how you will send it to other people. So, as I said earlier, this folder here is the one that you will send to other people. And you can upload this on like Google Drive or whatever you want. GitHub also has a thing for this. But anyway, whatever you decide to do, people that are playing your mod will take this folder and they will put it in Steam Apps source mods. Just like that. And then they will also need to download Source SDK based 2013 single player from Steam, and they will have to set it to upcoming, just like you did, and then they will restart Steam. And there's the mod in my Steam library. And they will also have the ugly settings at first. Oh. But before you release your mod, go up to here in Visual Studio and change this to release and compile it all again. You do not want to ship binaries that are in debug mode. You only want to ship release ones, but I'll talk more about debugging in a different video.